Gatekeeper, open the portals between the gods and mortals. Power freely flows as our magic grows.
Lou of the long arm, sweet, silver-tongued Lou, strong of body and of mind, and master of all the arts. We call on you to join us as we cover history, bardic storytelling, and song in this today's podcast. Lou, we invite you to join us and share this beer. Lou, accept our offering.
Accept our offering. Cheers.
Cheers. Hey, I'm Arn.
And I'm Jonathan.
And you're listening to Part the Mist,
a podcast by a pair of ADF druids here in Portland, Oregon.
So today we invoked Lou Lamfata, Lou of the Long Arm. He is an Irish Celtic deity, basically known for being the god of more or less everything. Lou was a warrior, he was a bard, he was a crafter. In addition, he was also a deity of storms, more specifically thunder, which is a little bit unusual for your deities. Most deities are a god of lightning. Lou, god of thunder, because Lou does not listen to your conventions. I'm one of my favorite stories, and I think one of the best stories about Lou to kind of describe who he was. So in Ireland there was the Hill of Tara, which was the Hill of the High Kings. Lou basically shows up there one day, knocks on the door, says, "Hey, I would like to gain entrance into the court of the kings." The gentleman who opens the door says, "We don't really need anyone. We have everybody here that we need." So Lou asks him, "Well, do you have a bard?" The man says, "Of course we have a bard." "Do you have a blacksmith?" "Of course we have a blacksmith." And Lou goes on and on down the line, listing off every task that can be completed within the king's court. Eventually Lou says, "Well, do you have someone who can do all of those things?" The man kind of stops, looks at him, goes, "Hold on just a minute," closes the door and disappears. He comes back a minute later and says, "King says you can come in." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is who Lou Lamfata is. Alright, well, before we get too much into our show, we would like to take a moment of silence for Reverend A.J. Gooch. He was a member of ADF for quite a while. Unfortunately, we did not know him ourselves, but he was a very important, very significant figure within our community. So, A.J. Gooch.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So we had a busy weekend, last of March, so what have we been up to?
Wow. Well, we've had a busy month, actually. We had our Druid Drinks. We had quite a few new faces that we got to see there. That's actually one of the things that our Grove does, is we do have a meet and greet for folks to come up, introduce themselves, and get to meet the members of Columbia and find out what we do.
So what kind of things were you talking about during that time? Because I know we were both at two different ends of the table, and I had a little bit group. There was about, 15, 16 people?
There was a pretty fair amount. We had, I was kind of seated in the middle, so I was following a lot of conversations that were going on. We had a group of individuals very interested in, for example, like the types of offerings that we do. One gentleman showed up who he'd actually been researching ADF a little bit beforehand, was asking us some clarification questions. I definitely told everybody to listen to this podcast that we're recording right now. So,
but our meet and greets in general is just so people get to know us before our ritual. One of the reasons why we do Druid Drinks is from a survey I went ahead and sent out to the public, asking what is one of the reasons why you don't attend public ritual. And most of the answers we got back was, well, we don't know the people. I'm not going to go to a ritual and not know people. So I figured, hey, let us do Druid Drinks or a meet and greet so people get to know us.
Mm-hmm. It gives us an opportunity to talk about who we are, what we do, what ADF is. And by the end of the time that we're there, we're kind of actually all just talking like friends. Not even all necessarily about ADF, just hanging out, really.
Yeah, and pretty much so. It's at a local pub, so it kind of makes things a little bit easier because there's enough space and such. But yeah, I mean, I highly recommend groups doing this. This is something that has been really, really beneficial for us, especially getting people, because during ritual, it's so hectic for people to come and actually spend time talking to us that we're all kind of running around with the chickens with our heads off, that it's hard for us to have personal time. So I like it personally.
Yeah. We've had people show up who have already been to ritual even and come to the Druid Drinks just to come find out, again, who we are. Like you said, I mean, before ritual, and any of you out there who organize rituals, I'm sure this is something you've experienced yourself. Before ritual, you're running around, you're setting things up, you're helping people figure out where the potlucks are, you know how that goes. After ritual, you're spending all your time cleaning up. And as much as you try to be there, as much as you try to be someone that can be approached and talked to, sometimes it's just too crazy to be able to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, it becomes really, really hard. And then you don't want to be rude, but it just kind of comes off that way. So we try. We try the best we can.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this podcast is filmed in the past to be aired, recorded in the past to be aired in the future. Today's actually March 16th. This will be aired on the 1st. So our spring equinox Kore ritual hasn't happened yet. So we were going to talk about how awesome it was, even though we weren't there yet. But
it was amazing.
It was excellent, yes, because I could predict that.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Exactly. So we were talking about, well, maybe in the future episodes, we'll go ahead and talk about what ritual we were in the past.
Right.
So there was nothing between this podcast and the last episode, so there's really not much to talk about there.
And I mean, sometimes that's going to happen regardless of when we're recording the podcast.
Exactly. So moving on, since today is about ADF, we got a very special featured artist, and that's Isaac Bonewits, who's the founder of ADF. He was also a recorded artist as well. So all 3 songs today are all by Isaac Bonewits and friends, and off the album Avalon is Rising. Now, his album is not available on iTunes or Google Play. There is a website which we'll put in the show notes of where you get the songs. Now, it comes in both CDs and MP3s, so you can direct download it. So like I said, the show notes will have the website because I can't think of it off the top of my head currently, but it will be there. I highly recommend buying all your pagan music. Don't do the pirating thing because that's just awful, since these are independent artists and they're not a huge record label and they do make a living off this music.
Please support your local pagan artists.
Please do.
Or you're not local pagan artists. Support pagan artists.
Period.
Regardless of where they are. Before we jump into our main topic today, we are going to hear from one of the members of Columbia ADF, Amber. She leads the study group within our grove, and she's going to give us a real quick overview of what ADF is. And then after that, we'll hear our first song from Avalon is Rising, which is the self-titled Avalon is Rising.
Exactly. So we will be back in just a few minutes, so sit back and enjoy both.
Hi there, I'm Amber, and I am the leader of the Dedicant Study Group for Columbia Proto-Grove, and I have been asked to talk a little bit about ADF and what ADF is. So ADF is the name of an organization. The organization is nDraíocht Féin. We call it ADF because most people don't want to say the Irish words. And nDraíocht Féin is the modern Irish for our own Druidism, or Druidry, or magic, however you want to interpret that. What we are is we are an independent denomination of neo-pagan Druidism. ADF works to combine in-depth scholarship with the inspiration of artistry and spiritual practice to create a powerful modern paganism. A lot of the information that I will be talking about today is available on the website. So ADF researches and interprets using modern scholarship rather than romantic fantasies about ancient Indo-European pagans. So this includes cultures such as the Celts, Norse, Slavs, Balts, Greeks, Romans, Persians, Vedic, and others. We work within the Indo-European spectrum, and that follows language patterns across Europe. Upon these cultural foundations, we are working to build a religion that these ancient people would appreciate and understand, yet one which has a depth and power for modern people. We create a non-sexist, non-racist, organic, flexible, and publicly available religion to practice as a way of life and to hand on to future generations. ADF was founded in 1983, and we have congregations that we call groves. Biggest one in our area is Columbia Proto-Grove. Our groves offer public worship of the old gods, and we serve as centers of pagan organizing in many localities. We create a system of training designed to work for Druidic pagans, whether solitary or participating in a grove, so that all can participate in our work and benefit from communication with the gods and spirits. This allows us to provide opportunities for solitaries and for those who work in public atmospheres. All really depends on what you feel most comfortable doing. ADF is a membership organization, and membership is open to all sincere people, regardless of their heritage. Membership details and all of that fun stuff can be found on the website at adf.org. Some basic questions that we get quite often regarding ADF practice and what makes us different than other groups and stuff. There gets to be a lot of question about what are modern druids, why do we call ourselves druids, what makes us different. And our big answer is that historically there are no real druids left. So what we're doing is we are creating a spirituality that is respectful of the ancient cultures that has been adapted for a modern society. And doing so, we feel like this is the most genuine way that we can honor and keep the old ways alive as well. What makes us slightly different is that we are a little bit more scholarly focused. We encourage our members to look up archaeological texts, anthropological texts, a little bit of the heavier stuff. We encourage, the spiritual aspect of looking inward as well. But the scholarly aspect is definitely one of the forefronts of what we believe. So we go by nDraíocht Féin, which is an Irish word. And generally speaking, when people think of Druids, they think of Irish and Celtic. Because we work within the Indo-European spectrum, we are not strictly Irish, and you don't have to be. Despite the Irish name, our memberships come from a wide variety of ancestries, including European, Asian, Native American, and African. We have no time or sympathy for racist nonsense or cultural bigotry. Our members honor Celtic, Germanic, Lithuanian, Polish, Greek, and other Indo-European deities, ancestors, and nature spirits. So if you are interested, you are welcome to join us regardless of your heritage, gender, spirituality differences, any of that. Another question we get asked often, especially from those who attend our public rituals, is that of Wicca versus ADF Druidry. Now, we are not a Wiccan organization, but we are completely friendly to those that practice Wicca. About 3/4 of our membership are or have been followers of Wicca, including a sizable number of Wiccan priests and priestesses who are using our study program to improve their clergy skills. I myself personally practice both. So that is completely a wonderful asset to a lot of our grove building, is that we come from multiple paths and we come together with a lot of new spiritual ideas. The primary differences between Druidism and Wicca is that Druidism is polytheistic and large group oriented and public, versus Wicca, which is dual theistic, or duotheistic, small group oriented, and private. What that means is that we worship more than just the god and the goddess. We worship the gods and goddesses of ancient cultures. Now, individuals might pick a patron or matron that they follow primarily, but for each one of our high days, we offer up sacrifices, offering, which is the same thing as offerings, but we offer those to multiple gods and goddesses, not favoring one over the other. And as special interest groups within larger ADF groups, along with bardic, healing, ecological, and other groups. Another question that we get asked a lot is, what about gender? Were druids predominantly men? Is it okay to be a girl who wants to be a druid or a woman that wants to be a druid? And the answer goes back to the origin of what I already said about ADF, is that no, not all druids were men, or if that's the case, that's not what we take with us now. We have half of our membership are women and half of our membership are men, and that is an appropriate balance for what we think is acceptable. Another question that gets asked quite often is that of human sacrifice. And it is true. In history, the Druids have been recorded to practice human sacrifice. However, in a modern world, in a modern society, and practicing a neo-modern Druidic faith, that no longer has a place whatsoever within our world. And ADF absolutely does not condone any kind of animal sacrifices or human sacrifices of this nature. In fact, if that was ever to be discovered, there would be some very heavy prices to pay, or maybe jail time as well. So our sacrifices that we offer are things like oils, incenses, flowers, beer, lots of beer. But our sacrifices are not living things. We, as ADF groups, we observe 8 main high days, the solstices and the equinoxes, as well as the halfway points between, which are generally associated to be the big fire festivals or big feast festivals. Some groves also celebrate the various phases of the moon, which Columbia Proto Grove has thrown around the idea of doing full moon rituals, and that is definitely a future idea. And another type of rituals and ritual holidays is celebrating of various hunting seasons, fishing seasons, agricultural seasons, and ADF has a lot of different types of rituals available for those types of specific high days. Columbia Proto Grove doesn't actually hold holidays for those events, but they are available for us to do so. That being said, there's also a great deal of solitary high days available online as well, so that you can incorporate these high days and rituals for a more personal solitary practice if public atmosphere is not really your thing or is unavailable for you. So, one of the very important things about ADF is that we are, as I said before, we are a little bit more on the scholarly side of things. We follow something which is called the triad of Druidic teaching. The triad of Druidic teaching is the focus on 3 subjects, that being virtue, piety, and study. I'm going to read just a little bit out of the book, Our Own Druidry, which is the basic introduction of what we believe, and this book can be purchased from the ADF website. I believe it's also on Amazon, but we would prefer you to go through the ADF website. And it gives you a lot of really good basic knowledge about what we believe, what we practice, and how you can get really personally involved. So the first triad of Druidic teachings, focusing on virtue. Virtue is the duty of every person who wishes to live well within society. We consider the many things that the old lore has to teach about virtue and do our best to apply our insights to our own lives. The second one being piety. Piety is the duty we owe to the gods and spirits for which they bless us in return. When we choose to learn ritual, when we make our home shrines and altars, when we keep the customs and rites of the old days, we bring piety into our work. And the third being study. Study is the duty we owe to ourselves, to grow by effort and strength, wisdom and love, to be more than we are when we began. We must absorb new ideas, new methods, and new goals. We seek these in both scholarship and the works of inspiration. And these really are the three core ideals of ADF.
Them back forevermore. Avalon is rising, it's rising, it's rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more. Avalon is rising, it's rising, it's rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more. Hark all ye in groves and bowers, Pan has come another time, ruling with a rod of flowers, giving us the bliss sublime. Prayer and prayer now shall guide us, Venus be our counselor. Avalon is rising, is rising, is rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more. Avalon is rising, is rising, is rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more.
Listen, warriors of the old gods, as the wild hunt horn doth sound. All their works shall fall before us, and the evil ones be bound. Raise the shield of bright Athena, swing the hammer of great Thor.
Avalon is rising, is rising, is rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more. Avalon is rising, is rising, is rising. Avalon is rising to fall no more. Hear me now, each Dree and Bondry, Brahmin, Volkby, Flamen too. Priest and priestess, poet, Godi, rune master and shaman true. All your faith now is rewarded, prophets of the ancient lore. Avalon is rising, is rising, is rising. Avalon is rising to
And welcome back.
All right, excellent. So I guess we'll go ahead and jump right into topics of ADF.
So last time we mentioned what ADF stands for, and I'm going to get it right this time. nDraíocht Féin.
Perfect.
All right. So what it means, it means public ritual, it means scholastic, it means bardic opportunities. Pretty much, I mean, like Amber was saying, I think she summed it up really well. So let's go into the history of ADF. And for the history of ADF, I'd actually like to do a history of the founder, Isaac Bonewits. I'm gonna try and keep it to the stuff that's ADF related, but Isaac Bonewits was a really kind of fascinating person. So, he was born Philip Ammons Isaac Bonewits, 1949. At the age of 13, he was introduced to magic by a Creole woman who showed him voodoo. And in college, he was actually introduced to Druidism by his roommate Robert Larson, who initiated him into the RDNA, which stands for
Reformed Druids of North America.
Thank you. And together they established a grove at UC Berkeley. Now, Isaac Bonewits, while he was at Berkeley, actually ended up being the first and last person, well, last so far, to receive a bachelor's in magic, basically just doing his own studies program. Kind of funny, he received such huge media attention that the college board was actually embarrassed and pretty much stopped that from being able to happen again. And he also received a master's in religious studies. Bonewits became a priest of RDNA in October of 1969. One of the things that he did a little bit different with his grove at Berkeley was he actually shaped it more as a religion versus a philosophy. And it became nRDNA, or Neo-Pagan. His first book was Real Magic, published in 1971. And in the mid-70s, he started the Aquarian Anti-Defamation League, which was really basically just Isaac saying, hey, look, we have all these minority religions here, and we're all trying to fight the same fight, but in different ways. So let's get together and let's fight against the discrimination and the harassment that we're facing. Let's do that together instead of this disjointed thing that we're doing. He established the Druid Chronicler, which was a journal, National Druid publication in 1978. And then in 1983, Isaac Bonewits moved to New York City, where he met Shania Bell, and the idea for ADF was born. He was also at that time initiated into the new Reformed Order of the Golden Dawn, and then he ended up meeting up with Deborah Lipp and becoming partners with her in making ADF the largest and most successful neo-pagan druid organization in North America. And they were partners in doing this from 1988 to 1995. I know, I'm talking, Isaac Bonewits had a lot of partners. He was actually polyamorous. So he was organizing ADF. He was organizing it as a fresh neo-pagan religious organization with no ties to the ancient druids, no ties to the other druid organizations currently existing, including RDNA.
Now, there are some parts of RDNA that's still in our ritual, the Earth Mother being one of them, but that's pretty much only thing that's been left. The majority of it was cut out because, like you were saying, he wanted to create something new.
Right. And finally, Bonewits was handfasted to the magician, priestess, and even a member of the Church of Unitarian Universalist Pagans.
That's CUPS for you out there?
Correct. Phaedra Heyman, now known as Phaedra Bonewits. And unfortunately, Isaac Bonewits did pass away August 12th, 2010, due to cancer. And that was actually the first time that unfortunately, that was the first time I had heard of Bonewits, was a podcast done in his honor when he passed away. And you can go to his website, which is still maintained by his widow, Phaedra, which is www.neopagan.net, and we will have that in the show notes. If you're interested in learning more about him, there's a lot of his articles that he's written on there, plus a link to his blog, which again is maintained by Phaedra, and including an article about him being polyamorous.
All right, so going from that, so that's a good touch of history on Isaac Bonewits. And so let's go ahead and just touch on some of the more, I'm not going to say important aspects, but some of the aspects of ADF that a lot of people, why they join ADF is for the education.
Right.
And the access of education. From my experience, now this is me, I'm not speaking for ADF, but what's nice about ADF is for your annual dues, which is $30 a year, you have access to all the information ADF has. You're not given a little bit here and there, you have full access.
There's a lot of articles, there's a lot of, we have Our Own Druidry, which is the Dedicant book. You get access to a lot of the books that are put out by ADF in PDF format.
So nothing is really sent to you in printed form
unless you purchase it specifically.
Exactly. So that's just touching a little bit. And we'll come back to the education part because we're going to jump around just a little bit. Really started with Isaac's view of accessible education, as well as accessible and reliable clergy, which I think is very important as well. So he wanted to do steps where people could, not be afraid to ask questions, or they're clergy, so we can only talk to them for certain situations. He wanted them to be more out there in the public versus more secluded. But yes, going back to the education, the Dedicant program, Dedicant Path is the start of the ADF training. It is a day and a half. It's a year and a day. Hello. And
although that doesn't necessarily mean that it will take a year and a day. For a lot of us, it takes more than that.
Yeah, well, it took me 3 years to do it, but for a good year and a half, I wasn't doing it. But it gives it.
I've been subscribing to the Dedicant Path email list through ADF. There's a lot of folks who are welcome to take their time, and sometimes that's what we need.
Mm-hmm. And what's nice is with at least our Protogrove is we have a Dedicant study group where I think there's like 11 or 12 members come together once a month and actually work through Michael Dangler's Wheel of the Year, which is a different book than the Dedicant program came in. It breaks down the Dedicant Path into weeks. Mm-hmm. So if that's the easier way for you, I highly recommend checking out Michael Dangler's Wheel of the Year.
Now, the way the Dedicant Path is kind of done without that Wheel of the Year book is you have Our Own Druidry, which is a collection of essays regarding, what ADF is about, what our core order of ritual is, the importance of meditation, the importance of studying, etc., etc. So you're given that book, and then you're given a list of assignments to turn in. What Michael Dangler's book does is he makes that list of assignments a little bit more accessible and helps you throughout the year kind of continue working on those. Writing up essays for the virtues, experiencing your meditation, and yeah, he makes it a lot easier for you to go through that process. So far, I've really appreciated what he's done.
And not each week is not broken down to having to write each week. Some of it is just go outside and experience nature.
Right.
Did you meditate this week? And it's a week. I mean, it's when we're having it broken down like that, it is doable. I personally think it's easier because it is daunting, because when you sign up for ADF, like, here's a Dedekind path. Here's these huge list of requirements. Go forth and do thee. And so you end up being like, oh crap, that's a lot of requirements. But rest assured, the writing is anywhere from 120 words up to 1,000 words. So it's not too daunting. For me, it was a marathon run, but that's because I just ended up saying, I need to finish this now. So I got to give myself 1 month to finish. I don't know how many assignments, and I ended up doing it. But if it is recommended that you take your time, because this is a building block course. So if you've never done Druidry before, this is a perfect first step into the practice. It's also, if you've never done anything pagan before, this is a good first step.
Right, yeah. And one of the reasons why it is a year and a day instead of just a how fast can you burn through this, they actually have kind of time limits on things. For one thing, they want you to attend 8 high day rituals. Now, whether that is something that you do in the solace of your own home, or you have the opportunity to go out and experience a public ritual, or prefer to experience a public ritual, regardless, you have to spend the time to experience each of the 8 high days and then write about them. The other thing is the meditation. They want you to meditate for, 6 months?
I think it's 5 months.
5 months? So regardless, you literally cannot do this program in less than 5 months.
No, I mean, yeah, you really don't want to cheat on that, because you're just cheating yourself at this point.
It's a devotional practice. It's not, how it can I write off this essay and turn it in, and will it be accepted? You probably could, but then you would be cheating yourself.
So yeah, so the Dedekind program is the first step, and then it branches out like a tree. There are so many different paths, so many different things you can do. Well, we'll go over the first 2, which is the Initiate program and Clergy. So the Initiate program, the ADF Initiate program, is a program that is designed for those who wish to expand their training beyond the ADF Dedekind path, but don't want a purely academic course. Or they're just not really sure if they want to be clergy or not. So originally, ADF didn't have an Initiate program, but that came much later. For several years, the ADF Clergy Council has worked to create the ADF Initiate program, a course of training into the ways of magic, seership, and trance for ADF, and with it, a current of spiritual initiation. This program would train students in the magic/religious aspects of the clergy program without the expectations that the graduate would have joined the clergy program. The combination of training would be an actual ritual of initiation. Such an initiation requires some sort of spiritual current student could tap into, a current that would unify all ADF initiates and help provide some of the quote-unquote juice they would require for that work. So that is from an article called Establishing the ADF Initiatory Current. Now, it's a pretty long article, so you could go ahead and continue reading it yourself.
You can find that on the ADF website, adf.org.
Yes, and the Initiate program, now I'm in it, but at the same time I'm working more towards the clergy, so I haven't focused as much into it. All of our knowledge is pretty open and out there, but the only thing that's really held back is the initiate process, as in like being initiated. That's not common knowledge. That's experience. You'll learn more about once you do it.
My understanding is the Initiate program and the clergy program actually share a lot of the same
They do.
Course studies.
They do. They really, that's one nice thing about the advanced ADF courses. It's kind of like college.
Mm-hmm.
Think of ADF courses as college courses. That you take one would fulfill a bunch of other ones.
I've already taken, Magic 101 to fulfill Initiate, so now that's already applied to clergy.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
Obviously, I threw Magic 101 out there as an example. I don't think that's actually one of their
no.
chores, but-
Actually, it's Magic 1.
Magic 1.
It's
Wow,
Magic
okay.
1 and then Magic 2, where they don't put the hundreds or the 200s.
Okay.
They just put 1 or 2.
I was close.
Yeah, you're close. And then there's the clergy program. The clergy program was created to create a professional clergy for ADF.
If I may interrupt you for a minute, one of Isaac's views for ADF, or one of his personal views really, was having an affordable clergyship that in paganism. The clergy program that he wanted to design for ADF would be something that could somebody could go through the clergyship of ADF and could be a pagan clergy be clergy for any pagan religion.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be just ADF clergy only. Now,
this is not like being the high priestess of a Wiccan.
No. This goes. I'd say goes beyond that. He kind of modeled it after the pagan priests of old, as well as the Christian clergy as well. So you get the fact that the amount of training that is required, pastoral care and such like that, that's part of the training. So you're not just, I know the gods, so therefore I'm clergy. No, you need to know about the laws of where you live. You need to know.
I noticed one thing in particular that caught my eye was you had to have training with somebody a therapist for hospitals. So yeah, sorry, it caught my eye because my wife is a nurse, but you had to have training to do specific clergyship within hospitals.
And I think that's on the upper level. So there's also 3 levels of clergy too. There's the ordained clergy person. There's an elevated, and there's senior. And every time when you go up the ladder, there's more specialties. But yes, you're right. That's more of the second. That's more of the second level or third level. The first one is can you establish the baseline clergy? And it's a daunting task. I'm not gonna kid you. It's really first you have to complete your Dedicant program and get that approved. So there are many courses required before you can actually enter the clergy program. They have the prelim courses. And here's just a couple examples of what courses you need to do prior to applying for the clergy program. There's ADF Structure, Customs, and Policy, Law in the Church, Indo-European Studies, Indo-European Myth, Cosmology, Liturgy. And each of those courses have anywhere from 8 to 15 questions that need to be completed each. And then when you're done with all those and you submit them individually and those get approved, you then need to submit an application for entry into the clergy program, and they have 4 questions. Why do you want to be a priest? And what is your plan for making that goal happen? Why do you want to be an ADF priest in particular? What does being a priest mean to you and in the cultural context of your hearth culture? And what has been your experience of work of the Dedicant program, and what do you expect when you become a clergy student? And then after that, there is a lot of different courses that you need to complete. When you've done those courses, you apply to be ordained. And you do this through creation of a portfolio, and then it's voted on by the clergy program. Because once you complete it, you're not automatically clergy. They will review your work to see if your work is good enough to become clergy. Because, obviously I'm speaking for myself. I mean, I wouldn't want just everybody to be clergy who turns in work. They want to make sure that because as clergy, you are representing an international organization. So I think that pretty much covers the basics of ADF clergy. Now, do you want to go over some of the guild study programs?
Yeah. And just to clarify, you don't have to be initiated to join clergy either.
No.
You don't have to be clergy to be initiated. Those things are not related. So one of the programs that we have, or one of the things we have, are the guilds. This is one part that is super exciting to me as a bard. We have several different guilds, which I'll go over in a minute. But what you can do in each of those is you can join the study program for those. Now, a lot of the courses that Jonathan just mentioned for the initial clergy program also overlap into the guild study programs like the liturgy and the Indo-European myth, at least as far as I've noticed. So there's an artisan's guild, a bard's guild, a brewer's guild, a dancer's guild, the healers, liturgists, magicians, naturalists, scholars, seers, and warriors. I'm going to use the Bardic Guild as kind of an example here, since that's what I've spent the most time looking at. They tend to have, again, different tiers of what you're studying. In each of those, you have kind of the basic courses, and then they have requirements that you would need to submit in order to pass the study program. For the bards, it would be, they want you to submit a couple of poems or songs that you yourself have written, and they might want an example of you performing that song.
So there's a lot of stuff going on in the guilds themselves. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast just on guilds alone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's, like Arnold was saying, there's different levels and different specialties, and you learn quite a bit. I'm in the liturgist guild, so it's all about writing liturgies, all about writing rituals and stuff like that.
And like you said, liturgy, in case you're not familiar with that term, is ritual, right?
Ritual. It's essentially ritual. So I think we'll go ahead and stop and take a break for our second Isaac Bonewits song. And this was actually kind of my favorite one. And this actually really applies to Portland. And it's We Won't Shave Any Longer.
1, 2, 3. We have trusted no man's razors. We have nicked and cut ourselves. We've been stung by all the aftershaves upon the drugstore shelves. And our patience and endurance from late puberty till now have given us the strength to make this vow. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger than before. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger. We have shaved away our stubble and have scraped away our skin. We have cut and hacked and sliced and diced and raised an awful din. And on every weekday morning we'd be bloody nervous wrecks, sticking wads of toilet paper to our necks. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger than before. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger. Now the ladies too have suffered in their armpits and their legs just to wear those pantyhose that come in little plastic eggs. But we think it's time to tell them that we pagan men don't care if they throw away their zip wax and their nair. We won't shave. We won't shave. So the time has come to throw our styptic pencils on the floor and refuse to wreck our faces anymore. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger than before. We won't shave any longer. Our beards are stronger. We won't shave any longer. Aquavel, Vanarelko, Wilkinson, Gillette, Big Man, and Noxiva.
Track 2.
Hi there, I'm Amber, and you're listening to Part the Mist, a Druid podcast created and hosted by the members of Columbia ADF.
And we are back. You are listening to Part the Mists podcast. We're a couple of druids here in Portland, Oregon. And that was We Won't Shave Any Longer. So there's also with the guilds and all these clergy programs, initiate programs, all these different programs.
There's even more programs.
There's even more things you can be a part of. And these are the kins. Now, the kins they have study programs in them, but they're not really study programs. Kins, they're kind of like, hey, if you like Celtic stuff, there's a Celtic kin. Hey, you like Roman stuff, there's a Roman kin. So they're based on hearth cultures. So there's an Eastern Indo-European kin, there's a Germanic Norse, there's a Welsh, there's a Hellenic, there's a Slavic, there's a Roman, there's a Gaelic, and there's a Proto-Indo-European, as well as there's an American kin as well, creation of American hearth culture. So there's a lot of different kins you could be a part of, depends on your interests.
And they all have their own very unpronounceable names, which I did not include.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be the one to butcher those names.
Yeah. So, and then they have...
In addition,
even more,
there's special interest groups, which is basically kind of, hey, like, it's a way of saying, I have an interest in this thing, so I'm going to get together with other ADF members who have an interest in this thing, and we're going to talk about it. There's a Native American special interest group. There's one for Ancient Iberian. There's one specifically dedicated to Brigid, and one to the Morgan as well. There's the children's education and parenting. There's ecstatic trance. There's a military sig. There's a sig for non-English speakers. One for LGBT and one for polyamory.
There's one for disabilities and mental health, Sacred Feast, and Spirit,
for solitary practitioners,
techno pagans. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So there's
and whatever is being created at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's not enough. Okay, so you got okay. So let's go over this again. We have training programs. You have kins. You got guilds. Yeah,
special
interest groups. So okay. So that's not enough. If now I'm putting my hand towards the mic as if you guys could see this, but you can't. There's orders as well. There's Order of the Crane. There's Order of Bardic Alchemy. There's Demeter and the Aleutian Order. There's Order of the Dead. Order of Mononon. Order of the Raven and Falcon. I mean, but there is just so much stuff.
There's so much.
But if you act now for $30 a year, wait, there's more. If you join now, you too could be in part of a grove or a proto grove. Hey, no. On all seriousness, no, really. And if there are, on top of all that, if you're a person who wants more, who wants to be part of a community, there's the groves and there's the proto groves, and there'll be another next episode. We're gonna go into what proto groves and groves are. We're gonna talk about our grove.
Just as a quick overview, though, Proto Grove would be what our grove currently is, which is we have a group of people. As a quick overview, Proto Grove would be generally a smaller group of members. They do not have the more official status that a grove would have. And then on top of that, there's also the Mother Grove, which would actually be more like our council.
Now, the Mother Grove, because we are a non-profit church under the law of the United States, the Mother Grove is like the board of directors. The Mother Grove is not an actual grove. It has the treasurer, the scribe, non-direct officers. It has the president and the vice president. So it's not actually a grove. It's that they actually run the organization themselves. So there's no physical Mother Grove. There's no actual location.
Right.
So no, and it's very different than a grove and a proto-grove. Also, proto-groves are just, what's nice about proto-groves is since they're not bounded by a whole lot of rules, it allows the proto-grove to shape and form into something unique without having a bunch of rules thrown on them. It also gives the grove organizer a lot of leeway how to deal with situations of negative situations like removal of members, where they could do it. They don't have to petition the Mother Grove to help them. They have full. I mean, the
it
joke.
It would also give the Grove leader the opportunity to do things like to do more positive aspects, like establish the Druid Drinks or establish without having to go through the whole voting process.
Yes, and the joke with the Grove organizer is the benevolent dictator, essentially,
Right.
because if you've ever formed a group before, the first year is always very shaky, or not always, but it tends to be a little shaky. But they get back.
We're religious. We're religious people. We get very passionate.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, but again, we'll talk more about what the groves and proto-groves are in our next episode. As well as in our next episode, we're also talking about ritual organization, are we not?
No, we're going to talk about the Court of Ritual, the next one. The next one we're going to talk about Columbia, where we're going to, hopefully we're going to have a bunch of people over, and we're going to throw a little bit of party, and we're going to talk about, why we joined Columbia, and why they joined ADF, and what we do in the Grove. Just to give kind of an overview of what Grove members do.
Right.
And then the one after that, we will go over what ritual is.
All right, sounds good.
So we're going to go ahead and touch. Did you want to touch base on the election, or?
Well, I mean, I thought that. So one thing about the Mother Grove is it is all elected positions. I mean, that's really pretty much. I just want to put that.
Yeah.
Out
There's no like I'm accounted. You're appointed for life. There's no appointment of life. It's everybody's elected for a term. They have term limits as well.
Isaac Bonewits is or was Archdruid Emeritus.
Yes.
However, even Isaac Bonewits stepped down after a while and let another Archdruid come take his place.
Yeah.
For those of you who are already in ADF and listening to this podcast, or for those of you who will be joining ADF, we do have elections going on currently. I just want to remind you to make sure you know who you're voting for.
Yes, and the election's actually for the new Archdruid and the new Vice Archdruid.
Right.
So, this doesn't apply for people who are not ADF, but like Aaron was saying, please make sure you vote. I think it ends in late April. I'm not 100% sure, but please, it takes you a good 5 minutes to they have the bios there. You can read who they are. Please vote.
And we will double check on when the elections are concluding. We'll have that in the show notes below.
Yeah, so that's very important to do that. Okay, so we touched on the election. So it says so our show notes say touch on ritual and reciprocity. Again, not too deep. Okay.
Because
was I not supposed to read that?
You already read it. Exit stage left, pursued by a bear.
Exactly.
Sorry, I got that. It's just exit, pursued by
a
bear.
Yeah. It's okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm an English major. I have to get it right. No, again, we're going to have an entire episode on ritual.
And hopefully in the near future, because we're talking about reciprocity, is we can maybe interview Kirk Thomas on the Archdruid, because he wrote a book about reciprocity, and he would be much better suited to talk about it than us.
Yes, yeah, an excellent book. I just finished reading it, and I cannot recommend it.
Whoa, hello! Where did that come from? It's beer. So good that he burped.
I cannot recommend it enough.
And we'll link the show notes. It's called Sacred Gifts. You can find it on Amazon.com. It's on Kindle. It's pretty much all the mediums today. Mm-hmm. So please, again, support your local authors as well.
Yeah.
None of that pirating business. Okay, so we talked about that.
What ADF is not?
Okay, so what aren't? So we talked about we talked about who we are. So what aren't we?
We are not supporting. I'm just going to do this real fast. We are not supporters of any kind of racial discrimination. We do not support racial discrimination.
Period.
Period.
I think that's pretty much it right there.
We are not just Celts, as evidenced by Jonathan, who is Roman, very, very Roman. We do not sacrifice living animals.
Now, I could tell you the reason for this. So essentially, we are a polytheist group, and animal sacrifice was part of the tradition. Now, from what I have heard, one of the reasons why we don't do sacrifice living animals, let's say you're a farmer and you sacrifice animals, okay. But one of the reasons why is because we're a public group, and that will scare the crap out of the neighbors, and people will be like, what the hell is going on? And honestly, I don't know I know there are some people out there, I'm not going to assume, who know how to do who could properly, kill an animal and take care of that. But not all of us have that skill, and we really don't want to butcher that, because that would be really bad and inhumane and very animal abuse. So one of the things is we don't want to scare the neighbors. Second of all, we want to do it correctly.
Right.
So saying that people in ADF don't do animal sacrifice, let's say, for instance, like eventually I want to raise bunnies for food, I could offer one up before I, butcher said animal. But one of the reasons why we don't do it is because also for some people it is not required anymore. It's not a requirement to do these things anymore.
It made a lot of sense to do animal sacrifice when that was your livelihood.
Yeah, I'm going to sacrifice this cow, and if I give up this cow, I'm willing to die. So like, hey gods, here's this cow.
Right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense anymore in a modern setting, unless you happen to be one of those people who really are just living off the land, in which case. Yeah.
Or a farmer.
Right. However, within ADF, we do not sacrifice living animals. Which is not to say we don't sacrifice already butchered meat. We just don't sacrifice living animals. No. Or people, which is
man,
given.
see that's always a disappointment. When I see no human sacrifice, I mean,
moving on. We do not promote sexism. Sorry.
So essentially, we are not a sexist. Our spirituality is not based on gender binary things. Yes, the deities tend to have gender.
Right, but we don't focus on we have to have a male deity and a female deity to even things out. That's not what we are. Speaking as a transgender person myself, that's not something that appeals to everyone. So no, we don't focus on genders. We focus on spirituality. And along those same lines, we do not discriminate against any gender orientation or sexual orientation. And finally, we're not in a rush. ADF is not in a rush. One of our unofficial mottos is fast as a speeding oak. Yeah, we want to see changes happen in the world around us. We want to see amazing things happen around us, but we understand that it doesn't all happen within a day. And that's everything that we are not. And finally, there are other Druid organizations. I would like to have a podcast on that a little bit later at some point.
Yeah, I think
going over some of the other organizations that exist out there.
And probably interview some people of those organizations as well, because I'm not an expert out of all of these. But so I think we'll go ahead and with that, I think I'll go ahead and mention maybe some of them.
Yeah.
So there's OBOD, which is Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. There's the Reformed Druids of Gaia and the Reformed Druids of North America. Ancient Order of Druids, AODA. Hedge of Keltria, and and there's a few other ones too.
Those are the big ones that are kind of some of the bigger name Druid organizations that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So I guess for our informational topics, I think that's about it for this. That's about it for this episode.
That's ADF in a nutshell.
Yes, pretty much. And there's so much more to it. It's not just that. And we might have gotten some information wrong, so forgive us on that. But I mean, go to the website, and the website will have everything.
Right, ADF.org. If you would like.
ADF.org.
ADF.org. ADF.org. All hail the mighty Glowcloud.
Yeah.
No. If you would like to write to us and tell us about anything that we got wrong or anything that you would like us to talk about more in a future podcast, That is ptmpod@gmail.com, ptmpod@gmail.com.
Yes, we could take criticism and we could take suggestions. We really like to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely. Please do. Please do. So let's talk about events that are coming up in the Pacific Northwest.
Cool.
April 10th, Columbia Proto Grove will be hosting...
Soon to be Grove. Soon to be Grove. Our bylaws have passed, and I just have to do a ton of paperwork and then get some things notarized, and then we will be a Grove once they vote.
Huzzah, Red
Yay! Exactly.
Okay, Columbia Proto Grove, soon to be Grove,
Perfect.
will be hosting the Druid Drinks at the Lucky Labrador starting at 2 p.m., and that's April 10th.
Okay, and on April 11th is Traditional Witchcraft, an Introduction to the Old Religions by Candlelight and Conjure in Salem, Oregon from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. It is a 10-week course of classes meeting every Monday evening for 10 classes, and you could Google Candlelight and Conjure, and they should give you more information on that.
They do, I just found out, have limited seating, so make sure you get registered for that.
Mm-hmm.
April 17th is the Oh Wow Psychic and Healing Arts Fair. That's located at the East Portland Eagle Lodge, number 3256, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's a fundraiser to help raise money for supplies for Sunfest, and there's going to be vendors and practitioners.
And on April 24th is Columbia Proto Grove's Beltane Ritual, which will be at West Hills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Portland, Oregon. Please arrive at 3:30, and please bring a potluck dish.
Donations also accepted.
Exactly.
Also on April 24th is the Intro to Tantra class. That's located at Flanders House, 2926 Northeast Flanders Street in Portland, Oregon, and that starts at 3 p.m. April 30th is the Liberating Ecstasy, a Beltane workshop. For tickets, go to www.crazyherbalist.com. They have a sliding scale of $75 to $100, and that's located in Portland, Oregon.
May 1st?
May 1st is the May Day Fairy Circle and Romp at Peninsula Park Rose Garden, starting at 2 p.m. Come in fairy garb and manifest your fairy selves for a day of merrymaking and playful mischief. And another Druid Drinks on May 8th, also at the Lucky Lab, also at 2 p.m.
And that's on Hawthorne. That's the Hawthorne Lucky Lab.
Yes, Lucky Labrador. And finally, May 12th through the 15th is Beltane in the Grove. And for tickets for that, you can go to www.beltaneinthegrove.com. We will have all of those websites and information that we just mentioned in the show notes.
Hey, I think that covers all of our events today.
That's it.
Hey guys, guess what? We got fan mail! Woo woo! All right, so Oren, go ahead and read it.
All right. I am an active grove of the Reformed Druids of North America. Greetings from Minnesota. My name is John the Verbose from Minneapolis area in Minnesota, and I am in the active grove of the Reformed Druids of North America, which we talked about today. I, quote-unquote, tumbled across a reference to your podcast on Tumblr, and I was so excited to see a new podcast on Druidry that I looked it up and subscribed immediately. And I'm glad I did. You are off to a great start, and I look forward to next month's show. May you be blessed with a great following, and may your inspiration be enduring. Yours in the Earth Mother, John the Verbose.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, John. And if you have any letters, please send them to us, and we will read it on the show. So what are we left with? Is that it for the...
Let's talk real fast about how you can find us.
Cool.
Again, you can always email us, ptmpod@gmail.com. Look us up on iTunes. We are Part the Mist. We're
Also,
on Stitcher too, aren't
We're
we?
on Stitcher too, yes.
Also, so Part the Mist on iTunes, on Stitcher. Look us up, subscribe, review, rate. Everything that you do on those two things will help us boost our show a lot, so other people can find us as well.
Cool. Also, we have a Facebook page, which is Part the Mists. You could find that.
Part the Mist podcast, actually.
Okay,
so
cool.
like us on Facebook, And our website is ptmpod.libsyn.com.
And the Grove's website is Columbia ADF.org. Yes, I can remember the website that I created. High five. Excellent.
And again, you can look up everything that we talked about today on the main ADF website, which is adf.org.
Okay, so I guess that's it for today, I think.
So, let's, to Lou.
To Lou, yes. Go ahead and thank Lou.
Lou, you know what? Thanks for coming out with us. Thanks for checking out our podcast, and helping us out, and sharing our beer. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, Lou. Or, we thank you while you drink.
We thank you.
Cool.
I'm not very formal with Lou. He is my patron deity.
So I guess we'll go ahead and close the show out. So I am Jonathan.
And I'm Aaron.
And we're going to close the episode with the last song from Avalon is Rising. And it's Come to Me. It's a song about Hades calling to Persephone. And then Hades being sad that Persephone is leaving. That's at least my interpretation. And very fitting for our next ritual with the return of Kore. So we hope you enjoy it. Until next time. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Come to me, my beauty. I've something for you here. A mystery you do not know. There's nothing you should fear. Come to me. Come to me. Countless are the maidens who've passed beneath my gate, but none has ever left again. I am the hand of fate. Come to me. Come to me. Strip off your gown and jewels. Remove all that you own. There's nothing you can bring below, save naked flesh and bone. Come to me. Come to me. Never have I witnessed such beauty and such grace. Come here and lie down by my side. Accept my cold embrace. Come to me. Come to me. You say you cannot love me for all the things I kill. But age and fate, my sweet one, are far beyond my will. Come to me. Come to me. If you must still deny me the passions that I urge, then I must bid you to kneel down. You must accept my scourge. Come to me. Come to me. The serpent now is rising, so grant to me the boon. You feel the pangs of love, I know. Your pain will vanish soon. Come to me. Come to me. And yes,
sweet rebirth within our glory found. Come with me, yes, you come with me. Ever touched me the way that you have done. My cold heart you have melted by surrender you have won. Stay with me, stay with me. You've taken in my seed now, it's deep within you set. No matter what may come to pass, I know you won't forget. Stay with me, stay with me. I'll give to you my power to wield as if your own. I'll lay my sword down at your feet. I'll share with you my throne. Just stay with me, stay with me. I know you must depart now to rule your worlds above. But when cold winds begin to blow, remember our warm love and come to me. Please come to me. You'll come to
That's okay, there'll be some dead space at the end.